Monday, July 28th, 2022 at 12:03. We'll just do a quick roll call. Emily Doran here.
Pat Sheehan here.
Ryan Ryder attending. Dave Smith here.
Colin Harvey here.
Barry online.
Barry's online.
Yeah, I'm here remotely. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Wow. Loudly.
Wow.
That is, wow. Yeah, okay.
The voice from above. I'll try not to cough on y'all.
Barry, is that you?
That's Barry.
Okay.
See him there and here.
I know.
Oh, you see that?
Yeah.
Can you see us? Hi, Barry.
It's
Do
a
we
delay, I
have
think.
anyone here for public comment in person or online? Come soon.
I'm Desiree Adair, the city secretary, and I just wanted to introduce to RCDC our new development services manager. Her name is Nikki Dykes, and she
Welcome.
came to us here within the last month.
Welcome.
Welcome.
It's nice to
Welcome.
meet y'all. And if y'all have any questions or anything, please feel free to email me, call me, stop in. So I look forward to meeting each one.
What do you, tell us give us your job.
Yeah, that's what I said.
My job description, I'm development services manager.
Putting
What does
up
that
with all
mean?
putting up with all of the
What does
building
that
mean? So, yes, so I'm gonna take care of, processes through, development, so you're going to be doing any, demolition, any building.
Barry, would you go on mute for?
He is on mute, Ryan.
He is on mute?
Yeah.
What's the
It's just
interference?
something over there.
What about code enforcement?
Code enforcement, no, unfortunately. I did work with code enforcement, but unfortunately, I don't have the certifications for enforcing.
And Nikki, is that correct?
Yes.
Where were you previously?
Previously, I was with the city
Thank
of
you.
Buda for 9 years.
Almost.
Sorry, guys, that's not supposed to be happening.
Wow.
Yeah. Sorry, we're
Sorry.
we'll start over.
Yeah, I was with the city of Buda for 9.5 years doing development services there as well.
Awesome. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? No? Okay. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Discussion and possible action on the minutes from May 12th, 2022 RCDC meeting. Do I have?
I've looked at them. I move adoption.
Second.
Great. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Regular agenda. Discussion and possible action on recommendation to the city council regarding the commercial corridor components of the comprehensive plan. I believe this.
I think this greatly overlaps item number 8 also, which,
Is your,
We've got a
For now.
handout here.
Yeah.
Commercial corridor recommendations.
yeah, and the discussion and possible action regarding proposed projects for the RCDC, one of those is the same
yeah, cause
thing,
that's,
I believe.
right,
and,
what we decided was,
so it's not 100% overlap, but
yeah,
I don't know how you want to
Can
try
we-
to deal with both of those at the same time, or just have the discussion at 3 and then when we get to 8.
can we move 8 up, right?
Sure.
Okay, great, how about we do that, we'll do 3 and then 8.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
That's fine. You can
Okay.
do it any way you want.
Okay. Oh, Barry, what's up? Sorry. You're on mute.
Hey, sorry, it was just a quick question. I was trying to figure out if I count as an actual member or just an observing member being remote.
Yeah, you can vote. You're not part of the quorum, and we have quorum, but you can vote, Barry.
Okay, just making sure. I didn't want to like interject or do anything that was
No, of course. And I'll
not
make sure
valued.
to
Okay,
get your vote.
oh, sorry. We'll go back on mute now.
Thanks for asking. Okay, so last time, which was 2 months ago when we met, we each had divided up into our little subcommittees, and we decided we would kind of bring forth to the group either if it's a document, a letter, sort of next steps to move forward the ideas that we want to push through RCDC. So Colin and I did our sort of due diligence with the commercial corridor piece, put up a rough draft. Again, I say rough draft. Everyone has it in front of them. And this is in regards to the commercial corridor and improvements to it based upon what is in the master plan that we all know is sort of a living, breathing document. So
I've been disciplined to take master plan discussions that I have had with council members about what the RCDC could do as it's part of implementing the comprehensive plan. And then we have also received the request, which is item 3, for basically the same thing directly from council. And so this is, I'm really addressing more Article 8. Back in May, I was instructed to, after our discussion of this subject back in May, to draft something that would be a project proposal, because our process of the RCDC is we have to have projects proposed, then those have to go to council for approval and come back for implementation here. And so that's what 8 is, and 3 comes in separately but parallel, and overlapping, and so that's why I suggested we talk about both of them together. We've really talked about both of them
Right.
back in May, and we're now just talking about dealing with the details.
Right. No, agreed. I think we're on the same page with that. So I guess do we want to read through the letter and I can make edits to it right now? How we would like to proceed with that?
I would accept, where is the issue of, here it is on this sheet, which I'm not really familiar with,
Yeah.
the RCDC committee.
Yeah.
There are 2 items about adding the bullet about the hospital land and the low-density luxury condos. I'm happy to.
Who wrote this?
I don't know where this
I
came
did.
from.
I think Colin made some edits. Yeah. This was a part of our committee work.
This is the project that we're assigned to.
Well, my comment is we already have condos in Rollingwood. I don't see what adding that 3rd bullet about having low density. It's oxymoron when you say low density luxury condos, period, anyway. There's no such thing. And we already have them in Rollingwood anyway, over there on the other side of BK's.
Yeah.
So maybe I should give some background here. This letter was brought about after Colin and I did some due diligence with folks that have business in the commercial corridor, also speaking to the retail coach on, as we're working with them on bringing more businesses to the commercial corridor, on if anything in the living, breathing, comprehensive plan would, what's the word I'm gonna use? Would hinder future growth, improvements, et cetera, et cetera. So this was the feedback we received from them. By no means are we saying that it's the end all be all, but wanted to share this with City Council as feedback. And again, part of our due diligence as that committee, this is what we're bringing forth to the whole RCDC committee.
Is there any residential zoning in the commercial corridor at this point in time, Emily?
I don't think so.
So it would have to be a full rezoning process to go through to do this in any case. I don't know which way that
For
cuts,
which
but,
one?
this is new to me, too.
Where do we have condos?
Up behind Trader, that street where the,
Right behind Trader Joe's, the shopping center that's behind
I
Trader
thought those
Joe's.
are those,
You get there off of, what
yeah,
is
is that are those condos, or I thought those were like garden homes?
well,
Is it set up as a condo regime? I thought they were individually owned lots. Yeah, so.
but there's like 20 of them, 21.
I think it's just a single cul-de-sac.
I think they're,
No, there's rows of them.
It's a single
It-
cul-de-sac. It is,
I think it's,
it's probably condo zoned, I'm assuming,
I don't know.
it's but,
I think,
No.
oh,
yeah, I think they're garden zones. They're a low zero lot line.
I think if you're in a PUD.
Okay.
They are, you're right, they're in a PUD.
Yeah, PUD.
There's a PUD created,
So that'll be a contractual.
Correct.
Zoning with the city, as a party to the contract.
yeah.
So maybe just to clarify just for a second, the spirit of what we were trying to convey versus maybe the legal aspects, getting back to the plan being just a framework, is in talking to developers in what would be next generation possibilities in the commercial corridor and profitable, they shared with us certain characteristics and things that are not in the current comprehensive plan or contemplated or mentioned or alluded to that they felt would it maybe prohibit or people perceive the prohibition of such conversation, in future projects. So they were just trying to convey, hey, it doesn't talk about these
Right.
things as even possibilities.
Right.
And so how could we convey that? If we didn't convey it correctly, that's fine. That's the purpose of the draft that we
Right.
work on together. But I don't think we're trying to write code here.
We're not
trying
trying
to
to write
say,
code.
hey, if somebody, using number one, came to the table with the intention of saying, we would contemplate something on the north side that was 3 stories if it truly was this amazing thing than whatever's over there now. We didn't already write something that said, well, we all agreed we would never do such a thing. So that's all we're trying to accomplish.
Exactly.
And in regards to whether there is or is not condos today, I think the question is are we up for allowing additional condos of a certain type? I think was all. But again, I'm not an attorney. I'm just saying that's all we were trying to convey.
Right.
I am an attorney, but I'm not sure I know the answer. Maybe I'll chime in here, but to do something like that would require, as I was saying, a starting over and a total a rezoning for the particular site that would be proposed if someone wanted
Right.
to come in. And I don't know what this adds. I don't know what this subtracts. I'm not against it.
I think it just keeps it as
It's a memo of
viable
feedback.
conversation as opposed to
Right.
something that somehow someone assumes maybe 2 years from now, like, well, the whole reason why this was written the way it was is to say we would never do such a thing. I mean, if you think about any of our projects, especially some of the ones that intersect with, the Department of Public Safety or whatever, or the highway system or whatever the case may be, all of those require a crap load of stuff if we're going to do them, just like this will. But they're possible.
Yeah.
May I comment, please?
Sure. Go ahead and have the microphone.
Brooke Brown. I am a member of the City Council and former member of the former strike force. As David and a number of you may know, the the concept for the commercial zone corridor recommendations came about as a result of proposals that would have put 3- and 4-story buildings on the north side of Bee Caves Road, or would have allowed that. And so within the discussions that the strike force had, there was quite a bit of discussion about this very topic. And the result of the 35 meetings that the Comprehensive Plan Strike Force Committee had and the town halls that were held by the City Council after the strike force recommendation was given to the council for their approval. Much of the discussion was on that topic. As you know, there's Timberline community, and the concern there, if there were more general language like is proposed here on the north side of Bee Caves Road, was the concern that residents have that live along Timberline, that they would have to be constantly vigilant about what zoning was being requested for the north side of Bee Caves Road. And so part of the decision-making process of the strike force that has been now incorporated in the plan is to put that issue to rest, except for the possibility that a change like this could come before the City Council or the Board of Adjustment as a variance. And so I want to just inform you, I'm not asking you to vote or to say this issue's closed. I'm just explaining what the thought process was for your consideration in whether or not you adopt this recommendation. But it was for the north side of Bee Caves Road, that was a very deliberate decision that would hopefully put that issue of anything higher than 2 stories on Timberline to rest, except for the possibility of that being granted either through a PUD or through a variance. So that's the background. Thank you.
Go ahead, David. He had his hand up first, Brian. 1 second.
No, and I'll echo what Brooks said on that. There was a lot of discussion about that, and there was a lot of concern raised by people along Timberline in particular, and particularly on the north side. As a group, we listened to that, and as a kind of a starting point, where we settled on was a 2-story, I think 30-foot kind of prohibition. Knowing that, there's 2 different mechanisms to potentially have a you go through a zoning variance. If someone comes along, if a developer came along with a really novel idea and said, hey, this is great, y'all like this better. And I think, if anyone remembers, I think the limit, you have to have at least, is it 5 acres for a PUD, to do a PUD under?
It's 5 acres.
It's 5 acre, yeah. We discussed a little bit about potentially lowering the acreage requirement, but I think where we settled was leaving it at 5 to put the impetus on someone who really wanted to do something a little bit more visionary, if you will, to go ahead and acquire 5 acres. The 5 acre requirement actually, and this kind of gets into I think the third bullet is, particularly looking at the medical site, that's of a size where potentially a PUD could be done there that could, allow some more, whether it's 0 lot line homes, whether it's, some sort of, luxury condo type situation, townhomes, something like that, but through the PUD mechanism, allow more of, like Brian was talking about, it's really a contract, a negotiated contract between the city and a developer where you can build in a whole lot more details over and above what's the general zoning.
Yeah.
What we're doing, folks, we're not gonna solve this problem at this level in RCDC.
No, but
All we're talking
Agreed.
about doing here is defining as what the project is going to be that we're gonna fund. We will probably not have much to do with the actual project. That's going to be up to the city council. We're being asked to be a pocketbook to pay for the commercial part of the zoning. And so we can put in anything we want, really, and send it to city council, and that's where it's gonna be decided ultimately.
Totally agree with you, Brian. Like, this document is just feedback from the community. We have businesses or developers in the commercial corridor that did not see things in the comprehensive plan that they wanted to alert us of. And our job as RCDC is to say, okay, thank you for that feedback. We will happily pass that along. To your point, Brian, we're not saying we're voting, we're approving of a project. This is truly feedback that we thought was valuable to share.
Because I think what I did here, and Brooke, thank you for that background. That's very helpful. Is a lot of important feedback, a lot of important perspective that's been gathered, and a lot of time that's been spent. It represents one side of the handshake of what's possible, right? So we were just only trying to bring that other side of that handshake of what's possible as well, which is, in talking to some folks, I mean, some of the conversation was simply like, if those truly were limitations, I've got plenty of other stuff that I can do, and that thing will look like it looks, forever. And so that's the reason why we're like, we got to make sure that it seems like that there can be that conversation on the variance, not that I've got to be, extremely, aware of every little possible thing I can do to get to a variance, to get to a conversation that says that we understand that it's going to be a complicated conversation.
So again, this is just feedback.
But yeah, just
This is
feedback from the other side. Now we're the most important side. It's our neighborhood, right?
Right.
But I just I just wanted to let everybody know that that's where that was coming from.
Right.
Solely from the other side of the handshake.
Right. So we can, as a committee, decide that we want to share this information, which is just information.
For defining the project, it seems to me we ought to be as broad as possible. And if this is feedback that we have gotten, because all we're doing is defining a project, the city council's gonna go to it, then there's going to be the whole work of actually writing the ordinance, it's gonna go back to the city council. All of this discussion is going to be happening several times at that level. All we're doing is funding this. And so it seems to me that our funding obligation ought to be as broad, or our funding permission ought to be as broad as possible to take into account whatever is gonna come out of this, out of the zoning process, including the feedback that's been part of the comprehensive plan. So I mean, we're not, I don't know exactly whether we're on item 8 has 3 different projects in it, but, I'm not quite sure how to proceed with a motion.
Do we have a motion to move this forward to share the
Well,
information with City
The motion
Council?
would be to approve as a project, the third project on item 8, which deals with exactly the same amount of money for the, and everything that the city had requested on page 3, adding as a friendly amendment the 2 bullet points in the new page that has been put in front of us today, dealing with the hospital and the possibility of condos, to see what the council wants to do with that. All we're doing is opening the pocketbook
Totally.
to see what the council wants to do with that, and I'm okay with that as a friendly amendment as the drafter of item 8, part 3. So I would make, to try to bring this to a close, a motion that we adopt as a project the third item in 8 with the friendly amendment of the 2 bullet points.
And can you just clarify, when you say third item in 8, can you clarify what that is?
The third
Just so we're all
item in
clear.
8 is the commercial corridor funding of it.
Okay.
Assistant-
Brian, can you say the friendly amendment one more time, maybe a little bit louder into the microphone, please?
Barry, if you're trying to talk, we can't hear you.
Can't hear me?
Did I get a second? Resounding second, resounding silence?
Hold on, I think Barry was saying something, that's why I was.
Can't hear me, can you?
Barry, are you trying to make a comment? We hear you, but we can't hear you fully. I just wanna make sure.
Can you hear me at all?
1 second, we need to turn it up. Yeah, 1 second, we're gonna turn it up.
Brace yourselves.
Okay, try Barry?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, go ahead.
Okay, all I was asking is for Brian to speak into the microphone. I couldn't quite hear the friendly amendment.
Okay. Go ahead.
My motion was to adopt as a project under, we're still on item 3, but we've also
Yeah.
blended item 8 into it. As
Yes.
item 3, blend into item 3, the definition of a project, which is on page 8 of our materials,
Mhm.
that deals with the same subject as item 3. Now, there's 2 other things in item 8, but we're not dealing with those.
Correct.
And my motion is to adopt as that definition of a project with the friendly amendment of adding the 2 bullet points on the sheet of paper that has been given to us here at the meeting, which deals with the possible rezoning of the hospital land and the possible use of something along the corridor for low-density luxury condos. And all we're doing is saying we'll fund the study that would write this for the city council's consideration.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
So I think it's edits to 2 bullets plus the addition of 2 bullets, right? You said just the addition of 2 bullets. It's the edit of 2 bullets and the addition of 2 bullets.
Yeah, my motion was just to add the 2 bullets. I think the other, do you want to add the entire commercial corridor recommendation?
Yes.
In there,
That's how it's written. That was the suggestion.
I'm okay with putting that entire paragraph in as a friendly amendment, if that's what you'd like to do.
Yes.
All right?
I second the motion, Brian.
I think that makes sense.
Would we like to, call for yay or nay?
I have a question. So I know that there's a couple question marks and a couple blanks in here regarding expenditures, particularly the last one. How, as the author of this, how do you want to handle those?
Well, by attaching this to number 3, which has the $30,000 number in it,
Got
David,
it.
I
Got
think we've covered that.
Got it. Okay.
So the blank in that would be $30,000.
Yes,
Right.
and that matches item 3, which is
Got it.
which is the council's request of us,
Got
which I
it.
didn't have when I wrote
Yep.
the page 8.
Roger.
really, we should be approving the council's request with an amendment
To theirs,
of the,
correct.
your suggestion of the, whatever you want, like, bullet point 1, 2, and 3.
Well, I think the friendly amendment has now been expanded to put the entire commercial corridor recommendation
That's really, yeah.
in there, but yes, that's fine. But we have to adopt it as a project, Pat.
Yep,
That's the
exactly.
formality of the RCDC
This thing
form.
is a project.
Yeah.
So we wanna redo your whole request, Brian?
Well, I don't know if we need to. We can just take
Let's just skip this,
this.
and when we get to this, add this piece into that.
It's fine.
And back then into 8 because that's defining
Yeah.
the project.
We're backing into 8.
Yeah, okay, so it's a consolidation of the third part of 8, the third part of item 8, which happens to be also on page 8, I believe. Adding the entire commercial corridor recommendation paragraph to it, which then implements, and we're doing this all as part of item 3, but
No,
it's getting item 3 taken care of.
Okay.
If I can get a second.
I said second.
Oh, did you say?
I did.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Do you wanna,
So now we're just, okay, now we're doing discussion after the motion and the second.
is there further discussion? You wanna go for a vote? Okay, Barry? Barry, yes or no?
I guess you put me on the. I didn't want to go first. I guess I'll go. Yes, it's fine.
Colin?
Yes.
Aye.
Yes?
yes,
Yes, okay, mission
Okay.
approved, okay. That as clear as mud to everybody?
so,
Okay. So let's stick with 8, Brian, to your point, and move to the next 2 projects that are on 8.
You want to go ahead,
Let's go
continue on
ahead.
8? Okay,
Let's go ahead
fine.
and do that.
okay, I think we should do, the first project on 8 is this official request.
Which is the improve the mobility?
Yeah, well, no, the zoning. Rewrite the zoning, approve commercial zoning ordinance. Request 100-10-2. Is that the first one?
So I just have, legal, MOPAC, and then I have the one we just did. I don't have a third.
We have 2 page 8s for one thing, but anyway,
that's
or
fine.
maybe it's item 8 on 2 different pages. The first project on 8 was the mobility issue between the park and along Edge Grove to get us out to Bee Cave Road, and that's just, again, a traffic study funding.
Right.
All right, that's what that's fundamentally about. It's not doing anything about actual construction, it's contribution, and it says coordination with the city's traffic study, whatever the city's
And
got
it's that
going.
specific area, the Edge Grove, because remember, we've talked about traffic studies multiple times, but it's that specific Edge Grove onto Rollingwood Drive to Bee Caves Road, that specific
Yeah,
route.
that's- It's not limited to that, it says it contemplates that route, but it funds a broader study of however we can do communication, physical transport between the city and the commercial areas. I mean, we're supposed to be
Right.
an organization that is helping our commercial neighbors, our commercial part of the city. We're trying to get some business over there, but this is just a small block in the process
Right.
of funding some traffic studies to tell us how to do it. A possible example would be something approving, well, something on Edge Grove. But we gotta talk to the engineers and we gotta fund that study, and that's what the first project definition on the first page 8 is.
And so you're saying that's about 30,000.
WAG,
Okay.
wild ass guess.
Yeah.
I have no other basis for it.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that reminds me that I need to get together with you on my engineering contact for that stuff.
I would welcome that.
Yeah, I just sent you an email on that, but yeah, so I think part of it is, getting together with an engineer or traffic, expert and talking with them about the appropriate, I think that's a great starting point. I think the focus is gonna be by design, commercial corridor, but also getting residents to commercial corridor. But, you know, good traffic engineers and everything else may have some additional things to look at, et cetera.
It may not be possible, who knows? But we're
Well,
funding some money into a study.
Exactly. They may have some additional things we may want to consider. They may suggest analyzing, et cetera, as part of that. And I think 30,000 is a great kind of guesstimate, if you will. But to go ahead and get the ball rolling on getting something done.
We-
So
we-
I
We're sitting on $450,000, folks.
Do we
We
have a
need to do
motion?
something to show some
I
motion.
like the direction. I like the way this reads, so.
Make a motion.
Yeah. Motion that we adopt this.
Second.
Okay,
The motion is to improve mobility between residential area and commercial.
yes. All in favor, say aye.
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 Barry?
Aye.
Megan?
All right. Do you want to continue with item 8?
Sure.
All right. The
The last
third
project here.
project that I was asked to define and draft, which is on the first page 8 of today's agenda, enliven activities at the park to encourage coffee or food service and possibly artist market or farmers market without construction of any permanent improvements, which is make sure we distance ourselves from the milk and cookies controversy. And this was something we discussed a while back after I did some talking to coffee shops and et cetera. I think that no one's gonna want hot coffee in the morning in the park while it's 105 degrees. So this is something for September, and again, we're just putting some money out there as a possibility. Any contract with any of these people would require, according to this project definition, the mayor's approval. And again, this is just a project definition that would then go to council for approval or amendment or whatever and come back for us to implement. And so again, this is the funding for maybe a supplement to a coffee vendor or an artist vendor, or maybe rent some tents for 4 or 5 artists. I think that Barry has had an idea like that similar that talked about a year ago. I don't know what the scale is, probably different of what I'm contemplating, Barry, than what you did, but nevertheless, this would just get us going again. So I've got
Yeah.
5,000 for possible subsidizing, 5,000 for physical to make it possible, and $1,000 for possible advertising and promotion. All of those are WAGs, again, wild ass guesses, but just to
Yep.
get us moving to something to enliven the park, provide new services up there, and propose this to the city council to see if they like this use of some of our money. So moved.
Second the motion.
All in favor, say
Mr.
aye.
Workall.
Aye.
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 Motion
All right.
approved. Great.
Hey, Brian, can I ask you one question? Do you contemplate doing this as a single trial event or potentially a couple of events, or is that still part of the project to define?
It's gonna be whatever we can get to people to do. I have visited with 2 coffee companies that do a tent event like this, one at Barton Creek Mall, one over at, what's the football stadium over off Burger? Where they have a weekly, they do it as part of a farmer's market thing. And my idea is for the coffee, to do it as let's get somebody in here for a couple of Little League games in the fall when it's a little cooler and people might want to drink coffee, and see if it works.
Okay.
As far as the artist market, I don't know. I'm hoping to work with Barry, who's got contacts in that business. I don't. But to see if we can get maybe 3 or 4 artists or artisans to do something and do a little weekend thing in the park and pay for their tent so that it doesn't cost them anything to bring their stuff over, and let's see if it attracts a crowd. This is all purely experimental, but it's trying to bring enlivenment to the park in a way that might produce some sales tax revenue as well, by the
And
way.
I think if we say like for the month of October, or
Yeah.
October, November, we're gonna say
Yeah,
the first or
well,
second
we're-
Saturday, like have some consistency in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna go back to number 4 on the agenda. Discussion and possible action regarding inclusion of MOPAC legal expenses and commercial zoning legal expenses in the 22-23 RCDC budget. So that is, the request that has come from city council. Brian?
I understand what city council wants, basically to use our money as part of the pocketbook. I'm okay with that. I would sure like to see reports of what we're getting for the money? I haven't
think
seen a
that's a fair
report number
question.
one. I mean, we
That's a
funded
fair
a bunch, we're funding a bunch already on this subject.
Okay.
Yeah, and
I'd like to see whatever, well, I'd like to see the work product that we're paying for. That's my only,
And I'll echo that, and in the interest of full disclosure, I've helped the city with legal issues on MOPAC South in the past. I haven't been involved in a while, but I know that CTRMA went back out for public comments in January. It's my understanding that the city provided some comments, but kind of my question was, okay, is this for future legal expenses? Is this for legal expenses already incurred? And then what is the product that we'd be asked to pay for, plus is it already out the door, is it in the works? And then also kind of what's the anticipated timeline, workload, et cetera? Just a little more detail.
who is the law firm that's doing this? Megan, that's not your firm, is it?
No, I think it's bigger staff.
Bigger staff, okay.
So Ashley, I know you're on mute, but I guess the motion for us would be that we would request a bit more detail. Ashley, can you hear me? Maybe.
Ashley,
I
you
can.
might be on mute.
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah. That we would just request some more detail on the actual sort of outline of the legal expenses. Is that the motion, Brian, you and David are?
Can we add to that, just that we have
I
also
was focusing on from
the
this point
previous?
forward,
Hold
but
on, Barry's talking.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, Barry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I just wanted to add to that, that we, or maybe clarity, that we get the previous funds that we've spent on this very topic, that we get an audit done of, or not, maybe not an audit's not the right word, but at least an understanding of where those dollars have already spent, because I think we spent close to $60,000 on this. I could be wrong, but I thought that was the last total. So I just want to know where to Brian's point, where do the dollars go?
Okay. Hey,
On
Ashley,
the-
you're
on the
unmuted. Hold on, Ashley.
financial report that we have attached to the minutes, we only show $60-some-odd for on this, Barry, for this year, for this fiscal year. Now, what happened last fiscal year, I don't know. I wasn't on this group.
Hey, Ashley, we can't hear you. Can you speak up?
I may have misspoke, but it was-
Ashley?
I think she's in a tunnel.
I know. We can't hear you, Ashley. I think it's her, not you. Yeah. Nope. We lost her.
Dropped off.
Yeah.
Yep, on page 12 of the package for today's meeting, there is an expenditure item for $6,731 that foots to MOPAC legal on another page. And that's all that's on this that we've spent this year on these financials, Barry, from.
Prior
on
year
that.
to date was 24,882. If that's MOPAC, right here.
Okay, so I misspoke. Apologies, but it was not an insignificant amount of money. So sorry about that. I think I read 6,700 or 67,000. So my bad.
I can't tell.
But still, I would like to know where the dollars, how much we're going to spend moving forward. But anyway, y'all are doing a good job clarifying it there. So,
So, okay, so what's
proceed,
the
Emily.
motion here, or is there one?
Okay, okay.
I mean,
I picked up year-to-date, Pat picked up prior year, so the total would be about 31.5
okay.
last year and this year, Barry. I don't know if that's everything you wanted to know, but that's what the financials tell us. And my entire comment was about going forward, but
Correct.
David's right, we need to see what do we pay for?
Okay.
Well,
So
has-
again, is that a
Has the city
motion?
received a status
It
report?
sounds like a
from
yes,
the
but.
attorney?
Yeah,
I mean, I think what I'm hearing is.
that we're not ready to proceed.
Yeah, we
on
want
that, yeah.
more
But I
information.
feel like we need a, Ashley's texting. That we need
So
a-
we would
Request for-
need a motion to approve or reject the city's item, right? And then we would then send some other clarification to the city.
Defer it.
She's trying to call
Council.
in, Ashley said. Okay,
Brooke's got.
yeah.
Actually, this is to include that $40,000 number in the budget, which is item number 5, so.
That, I can tell you what product the city council has received to date, at least in this past year. And that is that the legal firm has reviewed all the comments filed by all of the parties before CTRMA, plus assisted the city in drafting of the comments that were filed back in January of this year. Both the comments and so those two things, plus they have consulted with the city council on what position to take in front of CTRMA, and I know that there are at least 2 bullet points that will be in the late fall, early, probably October, November, January, February city council agenda packets with PowerPoints of the 2 presentations they made to the council in advance of the comments that were filed this past January. So I think what is the status of that project currently is that CTRMA is expected to revise all of the proposals that are currently on the table for MOPAC. And so we're expecting that CTRMA will come out with a new 2 or 3 proposals tailored to the last 2 years' worth of comments, and that the city of Rollingwood will then have to address those. So that's the work that's anticipated, as far as I know.
Is
So-
there a way to get access to those PowerPoint presentations?
They'll be in the packets. They should be in the packets for the city council meetings, and I can
Okay.
assist in identifying where they are and
So why don't we
getting Ashley to get them to you.
Yeah. Why don't we
Yeah.
table this and put it for
That'd be
the
helpful,
next?
thanks.
Well, so motion to
Yeah.
table this for the next meeting. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
We might be going back on expenditures, but Ashley said to let you know that year-to-date, we've spent $9,000 on Bakerstaff.
Okay.
If that gives you any
Okay.
information.
So Brian, we have a motion to table this till next meeting where we will have more background information and details.
Well, to the extent I don't think I made a motion. I'm happy to approve it. It's something council wants done. I just made the comment that I'd like to see the work product.
And I
think everyone agrees.
I think everyone agrees. Yeah, we don't have a problem.
What, do you want to table it? You
Yes.
think? Okay. I have no objection.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay.
Aye.
Great. So we'll have this on the next month's.
Second.
Okay. Okay, so number 5, discussion and possible action on a budget for Rollingwood Community Development Corporation for fiscal year 22-23, which is lovely shaded green
Okay.
in front of you.
I think that we should add to the budget, subject to, I want David to address the administrative services agreement, which is, I understand, a topic you've had some discussions with the mayor about in the past. We just need to add to this what we just approved as projects, $30,000 for the traffic study for the possible Edge Grove, would
Right.
use that. 11,000 for the Enliven the Park,
Park.
and 30,000 for the zoning effort. So those need to go into the budget,
Yep, agreed. So is that a motion, Brian?
and I'm somewhat offended by the $88,000, but then again,
Yeah.
that's something that the city apparently needs from us, David.
Yeah, and the discussions in the past have been, originally my understanding when the $88,000 came up, it was it was kind of characterized as a little bit of a wag. And, one of the things I've talked with the mayor about and had discussions with other people about is basically doing a year-end review and actually making sure that as the RCDC, we're responsible for, and if it's more, then we should be, reimbursing a city more if we're using more city staff, city time, attorney time, et cetera. If it's less, I mean, there ought to be some sort of true up, so those funds aren't being redirected into other things other than what we should be paying for.
But, okay, producing a budget, though, we gotta plug a number in.
Right.
The 88
That's right.
number, I think, is what has to go in.
Yeah, it's there.
I think it's
Yep.
fair.
And so, with the exception of adding in the
Those three.
projects we just approved, I would move that we approve the budget as proposed.
I agree for now, and that's the, I will tell you, that's, I don't want to put words in the mayor's mouth, but that was the, his very strong feeling on that is let's keep the number as it is until there's some evidence to the contrary.
I say.
Well, we try, so just to clarify that one specific point, we did ask the previous city administrator for a detailed budgetary breakdown of this. We didn't quite get there, and then additionally, we made a motion, if y'all recall, about 8 months ago, to actually strike this from the budget because we couldn't get clarification on what it was happening, and we're basically told we couldn't do that from the council.
Right.
So that may have changed, but that's why this is still there and lingering, because to Brian's point, that $88,000 is quite a large number that we to date has been a black hole.
So maybe one way to look
Well
at
said,
it is, totally agree.
It's more than half of our annual income, folks, but
Understood.
if the city needs it and we've got it, okay, but we have to just understand what,
They turn around and spend it on administration and park maintenance.
well, I don't think it's part
Careful.
maintenance. I think it's pay for part of the audit, pay for,
Yeah. Legal.
In the future, though, there's
time
an
of
easier
our-
way to do this
of
without
our
us spending
associates
$80,000 figuring out the
service.
problem, which is to simply figure out what the total cost of the services are and to understand the percentage allocation and not get into the intricacies of like what they actually did
I
with it. 'Cause
don't
if you do
think-
that, you don't care.
Right.
Yeah. I
You just
think it's
determine
hard,
fair allocation.
hard or impossible to get real granular about this.
Yeah.
That's my point. But you can do one level down from the WAG that you're at. But I think at this point in the process for this year, it's just going to waste our time.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I think one of the things is, basically we ought to be, in the interest of transparency, I think what the money's being spent on should be labeled for what the money's being spent on. And to kind of get to the point of, when working on the budget, if the city needs it for other things,
It's beyond,
characterize
yeah.
it for what is being spent.
Exactly.
Make it a different line item.
So
Okay.
we have a motion and a second with the caveat that moving forward, we'd like to have a bit more understanding on
Administrators.
the
I-
administrative support. Sorry, go
I
ahead.
do have a question. Basically, what we're discussing is, in terms of the budget, is items, really, the first two items on there, the business promotion development and the administrative
Administrative
services
service
agreement, and leaving the legal.
Correct,
um,
separate.
Separate.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we're proposing a change to the proposed budget $15,000 number for business promotion and development.
No,
That's
no,
just
no.
kind of a WAG number out there.
Right.
My proposals would be, and I think that's incorporated in what Pat has seconded if I've done the motion, the changes are to additional new projects to add the traffic study, the park addition, and the zoning. Legal contribution of 30,000, so that would come to 111 instead of 40.
Okay. Remember, we just voted on MOPAC legal as we're pausing on that until next meeting.
Pardon?
We're pausing on that until next meeting, so we're not approving that part of the budget.
Which part?
The
40,000.
Correct. We wanted some more background on how much
Oh,
we've spent.
on the legal?
Yeah.
Correct.
On the
Correct.
MOPAC legal? Okay.
Can you all hear me?
Yep,
Yes.
we can.
I'll just mention on the budget, there's not a need to approve it tonight. If we could, or today, I'm sorry, if we could just get some direction on what we want to include in the budget, we can bring back a finalized one to your next meeting
Okay.
that's got all the information and numbers in it, and then we can approve from there. We'll have to bring back a resolution to approve anyways.
Okay, that's helpful, Ashley. Thank you. Okay, so we'll add the three things to the budget. Next time, we'll get the MOPAC more detail. So again, I know we've had a motion in a second, but we're not ready to push this forward, it sounds like. Is that fair?
Okay.
Yeah, we've completed a
Okay.
draft review with
Okay, so
recommendations for
yeah.
edits and additional.
We'll table it still for now.
information.
Yeah.
Does that sound good?
We're gonna modify our motion and second and table?
Can we modify that motion since?
You wanna, just a motion to table, or is that what you're asking for? Okay, so moved.
Second.
Great, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Great.
Aye.
Okay, this is the discussion and possible action regarding updates from the retail coach. I believe that Aaron was sick, so I don't think we actually have an update unless Ashley or, okay, great.
Ashley.
Great.
I know that Aaron is out of town today, but he wishes to be here for the next meeting, hopefully in August. He has been meeting with the broker for Hop Dotty and Via 313. Hopefully next week he'll be meeting with them. They are aggressively trying to find space here in Rollingwood.
Excellent.
Excellent.
That's not doesn't make me sad.
That makes me happy.
Me too.
Those are the updates from the retail coach.
Okay.
I mean, that's just a report. I don't think it needs a motion
No,
or anything.
no,
No.
just a report out. Okay,
Pretty sweet.
perfect.
I love these.
Any, from number 7, updates from RCDC subcommittees, which we kind of already went through originally, but is Pat or David, you or Barry have any other updates on your subcommittees
I don't.
at this
No.
time? Okay. And then the most exciting part is the RCDC financials through June of 2022. So we don't have Bobby or Ashley. Who wants to run through those?
But we have Abel here who
I know.
can
Abel, you
tell
wanna
us
do it?
anything we need to know. if we
Any
have questions.
things you want to highlight?
No, we've had, no transaction stuff. We've been good past month, so
Okay.
everything's still staying.
Okay. Great.
We got during the current period, which was the month of June, $14,553.12. Is that about what we're averaging roughly?
We average more like 13. So this last month we had a little bit
A little bit more.
than we normally get.
All right.
And then hopefully we'll get a pop around December for the
Right.
holidays. But that, we won't see that
But we
until
won't see that till the
January,
next
so.
year. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you to everyone for this lively conversation. I'm going to call the meeting to close if everyone's good for that at 12:55. All in favor, say aye.
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 Or
Great.
vote with your feet.
Thank you. Give you back 5 minutes.